Two people, same paycheck, same job. 15 years later, one is free, one is drowning. Picture this. Two coworkers hired the same week at the same company for the same salary, $58,000 a year. Same cubicle row, same free coffee machine they both complained about. Call them Jeany and Jordan. 10 years later, Jeany just walked away from a job she hated to take one that paid less because she wanted to, and her savings account didn't even blink. Jordan is sitting in his driveway at midnight, refreshing his bank app, trying to figure out how he's going to cover a $600 repair on a truck he's still paying off. A truck he bought the week he got his first promotion. Same income the entire time, not even close on the outcome. It wasn't luck. It wasn't a rich uncle. It was 6 financial decisions, the kind nobody sits you down and warns you about. This is Flowcraft, and today we're breaking down the 6 wealth killers quietly draining an entire generation, and exactly how to shut each one off. Let's get into it. The reframe. Here's the mistake almost everyone makes: treating your 20s and 30s like a warm-up lap. The years you're allowed to be a little reckless before you get serious later. That mindset might be the single most expensive belief in personal finance. Because of how compounding works, the money that passes through your hands between roughly 22 and 40 is the most valuable money you will ever touch. It has the most time left to grow, which means anything that eats those dollars early isn't just costing you today's spending money. It's costing you everything that money would have eventually become. Jeany understood that instinctively. Jordan didn't. Not yet. So let's look at exactly what's quietly eating those dollars. Lifestyle inflation. This is the killer nobody notices because it never feels like a mistake in the moment. You get a raise. Great. Within a couple months, that extra money has folded itself into a slightly bigger apartment, a nicer car payment, food delivery instead of cooking, the upgraded subscription tier. Nothing dramatic happens. You didn't blow it on a wild weekend. Your spending just quietly expanded to match your new income, like water filling a bigger container. This is a huge reason the national savings rate has been sitting near historic lows. People earning more than ever, keeping almost none of it. Here's the real cost. Say Jeany and Jordan both get a $10,000 raise at age 30. Jordan's life absorbs it. A few upgrades here and there, and within weeks, it's just gone. Jeany redirects hers into an investment account instead. At a normal long-term market return, that single raise can grow into 6 figures, potentially over $1 million by retirement. Same raise, same year. The difference between a nicer couch you'll forget about in a year and a $1 million decision. The car trap. This is the loudest killer on the list, and somehow it keeps getting worse every year. Car payments in America have climbed to levels that rival small mortgages. New vehicles are more expensive than ever. Loan terms are stretching out to 7 and 8 years, and a growing share of people trading in a car actually owe more than the car is worth, meaning they roll old debt into new debt on an asset that's losing value the entire time. And that's the core problem with financing an expensive vehicle. A new car loses a meaningful chunk of its value the moment you drive it off the lot and keeps dropping fast in year one. You're paying steadily on something that's depreciating faster than you can pay it down. Here's the number that should actually bother you. Say Jordan finances a $770 a month truck. Jeany buys a reliable, unexciting used car for a $300 payment and invests the $470 difference every month instead. Over 30 years, at a reasonable market return, that gap alone can turn into somewhere around $700,000. The truck was never really a $770 expense. It was a $700,000 expense. High interest debt. If the car is how the fire starts, this is how it keeps burning. Credit card balances in the U.S. are at record highs, and the average interest rate on carried balances sits multiple times higher than a typical mortgage or auto loan rate. It's the most expensive money most people will ever borrow, and increasingly, people are borrowing it just to cover groceries and gas, not luxuries. At those interest rates, an unpaid balance can roughly double in just a few years. A modest balance carried on minimum payments can take well over a decade to pay off and end up costing multiples of the original amount. And there's a newer, sneakier version of this trap. Short-term installment/buy now, pay later plans. Increasingly popular with younger spenders, often used to split even small everyday purchases into pieces. And a large share of users report running several of these plans simultaneously without a clear sense of their total balance. It doesn't show up on a credit report. It barely registers as real debt in your head. That's exactly what makes it dangerous. Waiting to invest. This is the killer that costs the most while feeling like it costs nothing. I'll start investing later, once things settle down, once I make more, once the debt's gone. When you're young, later feels free. But compounding makes later one of the most expensive words you can say to yourself. Say Jeany starts investing $500 a month at 25. By 65, at a normal long-term return, she could end up with roughly $1.3 million. Jordan invests the exact same $500 a month. He just waits until 35 to start. He might end up with less than half of what Jeany has, even though he barely invested any less money overall. He just started the clock a decade late. Compounding is the one place in life where showing up early and doing nothing beats showing up late and trying hard. Related, a large share of people don't contribute enough to get their full employer retirement match. Literally free money, an instant guaranteed return that doesn't exist anywhere else. Skipping that match over a career can quietly cost hundreds of thousands of dollars. This was never really a rich versus poor story. It's an early versus late one. No emergency fund. Here's what happens without a cash buffer. Life sends you a bill you didn't plan for. A repair, a medical visit, an appliance dying at the worst time. Studies consistently show a large share of Americans couldn't cover even a modest surprise expense out of savings. So people reach for a credit card at a steep interest rate, and a $600 problem quietly becomes a $1,000+ problem by the time it's paid off. This is the killer that makes every other killer worse. It's the amplifier. Without a buffer, small disasters get routed straight into high-interest debt, Or worse, into raiding retirement savings early, which reaches back through time and detonates all the compounding we just talked about. It's the driveway at midnight. It's checking your balance before buying groceries. It's hoping the check engine light waits one more paycheck. And if you're recognizing yourself in a few of these so far, you're not behind because you're bad with money. None of these systems were built to be intuitive. Nobody selling you the truck, the card, or the app makes a cent when you quietly build an emergency fund instead. Killer number 6, status spending plus overconfidence, 10:30 to 12:00. The sneakiest killer disguises itself as success. A lot of spending in your 20s and 30s isn't about need, it's about signaling. The truck isn't transportation, it's a personality. The watch isn't a watch, it's a scoreboard. People spend money they don't have to impress people who, honestly, aren't thinking about them at all. But there's a subtler version of this same trap, and it catches even disciplined people. Once you start investing, the itch to be clever about it, jumping out when headlines get scary, jumping back in when it feels safe. Long-term data consistently shows that the average investor earns noticeably less than the market itself, purely from the cost of fidgeting. Not from picking bad investments, but from panic selling good ones at the worst possible moment. Over a couple of decades, that gap can cost a 6-figure sum on a modest starting balance. Close and recap. Lifestyle creep. The car. The high-interest debt. Waiting to invest. No emergency fund. Spending to look rich instead of building it. 6 killers. But really, they're one problem wearing 6 outfits. Each one takes your most valuable dollars, the ones you'll only ever have once, and quietly redirects them away from your future. Remember Jordan in the driveway at midnight? Still paying, years later, for a decision made in a single afternoon. Jeany drove something boring the whole time. That's the only reason she could walk into a lower-paying job she actually wanted without flinching. Same income, completely different outcomes. The only thing that separated them was which of these 6 they saw coming. You don't get to choose whether the clock is running. It's running right now for all of us. You only get to choose whether it's running for you or against you. If this helped, hit subscribe here on Flowcraft. I break down exactly this kind of stuff every week. No fluff, no selling you anything shiny. And drop a comment telling me which of these 6 hit closest to home. I read every one. Pick one of them. Start today. 10 years from now, you'll either be quietly thanking yourself or wishing you had.